Hello again. Claire wrote a blog last week, an article on 10 questions you could ask yourself before doing an ultra-endurance cycling event, and I thought it might be quite useful to talk through these questions on a video. And of course it's applicable to running as well. We coach cyclists and runners. Firstly, why have you chosen your event? When you're a few days in or a few hours in, or you're getting really tired, you might think, why the hell am I doing this? This is really hard, and you might want to stop. So knowing why you want to do it, knowing what your motivation is, having thought through these things up front, gives you a much better chance of getting through the bad patches and getting to the finish and succeeding in your goals. So why have you chosen to do this particular event? Leading on from that, what would you consider to be a successful outcome? What are your success criteria? It's quite often best to have a sort of a safety criteria, like maybe you want to finish the event, and then a realistic goal that you're really aiming towards and you think you can manage. That might be to finish within a certain time. And then a stretch target, which would be your dream goal. We might call it your dream goal. And that would be to finish maybe finish in the top 10 or something like that. It might be a really stretched target that you're not sure whether you can manage. It is possible, but it would be great if you do it. And knowing these goals up front and what it takes to reach these goals, or what will give you likely a good chance of hitting those goals, means you can plan your training accordingly and prepare mentally and physically for the event. And then what strategies work well for you? You can practice all this in your training and do some practice events, do something similar to what your main goal event's going to be in practice. So learn what things work for you. It might be riding alone. Do you prefer to ride on your own, or do you prefer to ride in a group? If you ride on your own, then you've got control over the pace, but you don't have as much distraction. You can get lost in your own head. So for some people, if you're like an introvert, like me, then being on your own can be quite useful. But if you're motivated by talking to people and chatting with people, then being in a group can be kind of helpful. And obviously in cycling, you've got aerodynamic benefits if you're in a group. But then again, if you're in a group, you might have to go too faster than you really want to, or you might have to go slower than you really want to, and that might compromise your result in the end. And usually it's probably a good thing if you're doing an event with lots of people, and it can be quite good to mix it up. You prefer to ride to power, speed, elapsed time, how you feel. Usually it's better to ride how you feel if you're in an ultra-endurance event, but keep an eye on all the other data. Do you like to stop frequently for very short periods of time, or do you like to just keep going and then have one bigger stop? What sort of stops work for you? What sort of ride schedule works for you? What sort of resupply schedule works for you? Do you like to be competitive, or do you like to ride your own race? If you like to be competitive, you have to be a bit careful and not get carried away with it. But having these things decided or understood up front is really helpful. Number 4, are you prepared for the weather? Have you got the right kit? Have a look at the weather forecasts. Weather forecasts aren't necessarily particularly reliable, long-term forecasts particularly. So look at the maximum and minimum temperatures for that time of year and plan your kit accordingly. And then as the event gets closer, you can get more and more understanding of what the weather's likely to be, and you might be able to then refine your kit to take a little bit more or a little bit less to meet the requirements of the weather conditions. But it's better to have enough rather than not enough, because if it's a multi-day event, then if you can't sleep or you get excessively cold or it puts your life in danger, of course, that might compromise whether you actually get to the end of it or not. So it's better to get to the end and be a bit slower because you've carried a bit more kit than to not get to the end and completely fail in your attempt. In most cases, like if you're trying to win, you might accept that there's going to be more discomfort and you might take a bit more of a risk. But in general, it's better to be on the safe side, because a bit of extra weight doesn't necessarily cause a lot of problems. Why do people not finish this event and similar events? You might be able to find on the forums or chat groups, or you could ask people. Like there might be a Facebook group for your event, so you might be able to ask people. You might be asked, well, what was the hardest part of your event, and see whether people answer. So learn as much as you can about why you might be likely to fail. Why have you failed in various events in the past if you haven't managed to finish? And any practice events you think, oh, actually this could be a sticking point. So why might you fail? Why have other people failed? Number 6, what's the nutrition plan? What's your nutrition plan? You'll have practiced your nutrition and eating and resupplying all these things if you can't carry all your stuff that you need during the event. So what's your nutrition plan? What works well for you? Use the EAT acronym that we like. Eat certain foods, the foods you enjoy, the foods that work well for you. Avoid certain foods that don't work for you or might make you ill. And T for tolerate. Look for foods but your backup foods that you know you can manage with but you don't really like. So eat, work out your nutrition strategy. How often are you going to eat? Are you going to eat every 30 minutes, or are you going to have a big meal every now and again? Or ideally have a combination, because it's better to eat regularly so that you're regularly fueled, your body's got plenty to work with. And then because it's quite hard in ultra endurance events to eat enough calories on the bike, stopping for a meal now and again to really top up the intake so you're not in calorie deficit. How are you going to organise yourself on the event? You know, what's a typical day going to be? What are you going to do in the run up to the event? Are you going to try and bank sleep if it's a multi-day event and you're going to be in a sleep deprived state during the event? Are you going to get extra sleep in beforehand, and how are you going to do that? Then during the event, how are you going to schedule your time? If you're doing a multi-day event, it's usually better to have a duration-based schedule, because a duration-based schedule can't be knocked out by mechanical problems, whereas a distance-based schedule, you can get problems if something goes wrong and you say you have to stop and get your bike fixed or something like that. So what is your duration-based schedule? You'll have practiced this in your practice rides. So you might be saying, you're going to ride for 16 hours, have 8 hours off, and then another 16 or 20 hours a day, 4 hours break. So you might be going to have frequent mini breaks where you have a sort of a short sleep, and that might work better for you. So what's your ride schedule? How are you going to execute the performance? What things are likely to go wrong and how are you going to deal with them? So make a list of what we call what ifs. What if I have a mechanical? What if I have a puncture? That's an easy one. What if I can't sleep? What if I can't find anywhere to sleep? What if I get all my kit wet? What if I get really cold? What if I feel like I can't continue and I want to stop? It's always a good idea to not stop immediately feel like stopping. I mean, you could stop, but don't give up on the event. Stop and have a meal and a cup of coffee and add a bit of perspective and objectivity back into the game before you make a big decision like not finishing the event. What if something's not on my what ifs list? What if I haven't thought about it? Well, a good approach is accept it's normal to panic, amp. So panic, you're going to panic. It's normal to get quite emotional if something goes wrong and you're not sure how to deal with it. So allow that to happen, know it's normal, and then move on with a plan, make a plan of how to deal with it and move on. Number 9, how will you make sure your bike's ready? Check through everything. Are you going to do a bike check before? Make a list of what you need to do, things that you might need to buy. Don't running around at the last minute thinking, I haven't got any spare inner tubes, or I need some lubricant. Are you going to carry lubricant? Things like that. Have you got the right lights? Are the lights good enough? Are all your batteries charged? If you're going to work with batteries, is your dynamo working? Have you got a battery charger for your dynamo if you're using a dynamo light and you want to charge other components like your phone and navigation equipment? Do you need spare navigation equipment? Is your route uploaded to some sort of cloud-based source like Strava or Komoot, so that if your device goes wrong, then you can use your phone to navigate or something like that? Have you got a backup? So just have another list, check through it. In your practice ride, keep adding to the list, check through it and keep refining your process. Finally, number 10, what's your mental approach? Claire's written another few articles recently over the last few days about mental approach and AMP and how to deal with things that go wrong. So think about what your mental approach to the ride is going to be. Being mindful, mindfulness riding can be quite useful, so you're mindful of the process. Being engaged with the process is quite helpful. Sometimes it helps not to be mindful. It's not illegal in France to have headphones, but if it's legal in the country where you're doing the event, then maybe listen to some music. That can help a lot. Or podcasts. I know Jenny listened to a lot of podcasts when she was doing the Round the World record ride. What are you going to do to keep yourself sane going forward and progressing effectively? What calming strategies are you going to use when you start to panic, if things start to go wrong? And what strategies are you going to do to improve your mood? Like music can be a really good one to get you through a bad patch. Somebody else I coached for a few bikepacking events, the Trans Continental and the Transatlantic Way Race, among others. She found it useful to talk to people. So if she was in a low mood, then she went to, she went into the shop and had a chat with somebody, or went to cafe and had a chat with somebody, because that helped her reset and get her mood back in order, and then she could move on. So what works for you? Find out what works for you, so that you're not having to sort of figure everything out on the day of the event. So hopefully those questions are useful. Why have you chosen the event? What's a successful outcome for you? What strategies work best for you? Are you prepared for the weather? Why do people not finish this type of event or this event? What's the nutrition plan? How are you going to organise yourself for a typical riding day? What things could go wrong and what you're going to do to deal with them? How will you make sure your bike and your kit are all as they need to be? And what's your mental approach for the event? Hopefully all that's useful. Let me know what you find useful. What are your top tricks? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.